Hello everyone, my name is Emily Huerta and I decided to do my media project on the history of the LGBT community here in Las Vegas. I noticed that there are tons of sources that discuss the trials and tribulations of the LGBT community in the United States, but I really wanted to focus on our own community. Las Vegas is known for the gambling and the shows, and I wondered where the history of the LGBT community was woven within that. Every great journey has a starting point, and I want to highlight how LGBT first made a prominent appearance here in Las Vegas. Its first major appearance was an establishment known as Le Cafe, but I'd like to dive into how it came to be so popular in Vegas. Back in 1954, on August 18th, a club opened in Las Vegas on the corner of Paradise Road and Tropicana called Club Black Magic. The club was known for its jazz, and more often than not, musicians who finished their night's work on the Strip gathered there to hang out with other musicians to listen to and play jazz. It was later renamed Club de Paris. 14 years later, in November of 1968, a European lesbian by the name of Camille Castro opened a restaurant inside the club called Le Bistro French. Just under 2 years later, both the club and the restaurant began to fail. Mars Jacques, a cocktail waitress who used to work at the Golden Nugget, bought the club and opened Le Cafe on January 16, 1970. What was most interesting about this restaurant was the fact that it was a gay bar, and it was proud of being one. Unfortunately, a fire in 1978 started in Le Cafe, rumored to have been the work of Camille Castro, its previous owner. Although Castro sold the establishment to Jacques, people believe she torched the restaurant because of its competition with another bar she opened just down the street. It was never confirmed, but within the gay community, it was believed the fire was intentional. Once the LGBT community in Vegas found its voice and its presence, it continued to use its voice for action and change. The first national organization to sponsor and support the gay Las Vegas community was the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU. Their mission then and today is to uphold within courts, communities, and in legislation the rights that are guaranteed to every citizen by the United States Constitution. Their Las Vegas office opened up on May 1, 1975, and 2 years later they sponsored a gay rights seminar that was held at the Clark County Library on Flamingo. In addition to gaining support, the LGBT community in Las Vegas began their own newspaper called Vegas Gay Times. It was published for the first time in 1978 with the ACLU's Human Rights Committee. Another prominent organization in Vegas was Nevadans for Human Rights, NHR. Their first meeting occurred on January 13, 1979, and they eventually used Vegas Gay Times as their newsletter. There are many people who encouraged and did tons for the LGBT community in Vegas, but I'd like to shine the spotlight on both Dennis McBride, which is pictured here on the left, and Kenny Kerr, pictured on the right. Kenny Kerr was an entertainer here in Vegas in the 70s. I thought he was interesting to include because he was actually a witness at the Stonewall riots. Paula Rothenberg's book, Race, Class, and Gender in the United States, mentions the Stonewall riots in The Ghosts of Stonewall, a section describing the riots themselves and analyzing their cause. At the infamous Stonewall riots, police raided Stonewall Inn in New York City. Originally claiming they were there to enforce liquor laws, they ended up abusing and arresting employees inside of the private LGBT establishment. Kenny Kerr was a dancer at Stonewall Inn and witnessed the events at the time. On May 13, 1977, Boylesque, a Las Vegas show featuring Kenny Kerr in various female roles, opened up at the Silver Slipper Casino. Boylesque went on to be one of the most successful shows in Las Vegas history. Dennis McBride is also a person who consistently showed up while doing my research, and I decided to include him because of his ties to UNLV. Currently, McBride is the executive director of the Nevada State Museum and is a longtime historian. He is mostly known for his interest in documenting the gay and lesbian movement here in Las Vegas. Fred Wasser's article, Nevada's Neon Closet, features McBride explaining why he has taken such a huge interest in gay and lesbian history in Vegas. He says, "When I realized when I was about 17 years old that maybe I was gay, I had no resources. I had no one to mentor me, so I had to create my own context. McBride has been a pivotal person in preserving LGBT history inspired by wanting to create resources and support for other LGBT identifying people in Vegas. He created the LGBT archives at UNLV, which can be found at the Special Collections Division at UNLV Libraries. The Las Vegas LGBT community has made great strides in progress, but unfortunately there are organizations and individuals who continue to try to hold them back. Prior to June 16, 1993, Nevada's sodomy law prevented intimacy within LGBT relationships and condemned sexual acts between those of the same sex. Fortunately, State Senator Lori Littman Brown drafted Senate Bill 466 to repeal the sodomy law. It was repealed in 1993, and sexual acts between same-sex couples was legalized. The Briggs Initiative was a California proposal encouraging the prohibition of LGBT from teaching in public schools. This was opposed by Harvey Milk, a prominent political figure not only in California but nationwide. Although the Briggs Initiative only concerned California law, it inspired negativity here in Nevada. For example, in 1979, Democratic Assemblywoman Karen Hayes announced a plan to introduce a bill legalizing the refusal to hire those who identify as LGBT. Fortunately, this plan was never put into action. Although Nevada did not have its own rendition of the Briggs Initiative, it did have its own anti-same-sex marriage initiative. The Coalition for the Protection of Marriage, a national movement, consisted of religious fundamentalists and anti-progressive political organizations that encouraged anti-same-sex laws in state constitutions. In 1999, it found its way to Nevada, and with its funding and successful efforts, the Anti-Same-Sex Marriage Initiative was voted through and then created in an amendment to the Nevada Constitution in 2002. I'd like to draw attention to this political cartoon. I found it to be worth sharing because on the right side of the cartoon, you have someone advocating for a law banning same-sex marriage, yet Vegas is known as Sin City. Although all of the gambling, strip clubs, and drinking in Vegas was legal, same-sex marriage was not. Without great leadership, progress is hard to come by. Without some of these prominent political leaders, such as Harvey Milk and Las Vegas's own David Parks, LGBT progress wouldn't have made the large strides that it did and continues to do. I decided to highlight Harvey Milk despite him being a San Francisco supervisor. He was a civil and human rights leader and was one of the first openly gay elected officials in the United States. Just about a year after getting elected, he was assassinated. He was aware that he may one day be assassinated and created recordings of his will. In one of the tapes, he proclaimed, "If a bullet should enter my brain, let that bullet destroy every closet door." His death sparked outrage among the rest of the nation, including Las Vegas, and inspired many people to come out to their parents and to fight for LGBT equality. More specifically in Nevada, in November of 2008, David Parks became our first openly gay state senator. He's been a persistent figure in Nevada, having 10 years of experience in Nevada's government prior to being elected in 2008. AIDS has been a crisis that the LGBT community has dealt with for some time now. AIDS is the late stage of an HIV infection, which is a virus that attacks cells that help the body fight infections. There are various organizations that exist today, as well as in the past, that fought against AIDS. On March 10, 1982, Las Vegas experienced its first death of AIDS, and 1 year later, AFAN was founded. AFAN, Aid for AIDS of Nevada, provides support and advocacy for adults and children living with and affected by AIDS in southern Nevada. The AFAN newsletter, AFAN News, began publishing shortly after the start of the organization, and fundraisers were created to help those struggling with AIDS during that time. Fast forward a bit in 2001, AFAN's annual AIDS Walk broke records. Over 3,000 people were in attendance, and they raised $172,483. Each year, AFAN continues to support and advocate for the AIDS community in Las Vegas. Some significant court cases that encouraged marriage equality consist of Sevcik v. Sandoval and Obergefell v. Hodges. Sevcik v. Sandoval was a court case that originated here in Nevada. Arguing that Nevada's ban on same-sex marriage, the Anti-Same-Sex Marriage Initiative that was made an amendment in 2002, violates the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution. It was argued that treating same-sex couples as second-class status domestic partnerships promotes inequality, and denies those couples of the same privileges that heterosexual couples are given. On October 9, 2014, same-sex marriage was legalized in Nevada. In June of 2015, the decision in the Obergefell v. Hodges case was to legalize same-sex marriage in the United States. It states that the 14th Amendment requires states to recognize same-sex marriage as validly performed out of state. Since same-sex couples may now exercise the fundamental right to marry in all states, there is no lawful basis for a state to refuse to recognize a lawful same-sex marriage performed in another state on the ground of its same-sex character. Rothenberg 533. The LGBT community has much to celebrate given all that it has accomplished here in Las Vegas within the past century. The first Gay Pride celebration in Las Vegas took place during the week of May 6th to May 14th, 1983. It was held at UNLV, and shortly after the celebration, Dennis McBride created the Las Vegas Gay Archives at UNLV. The first Gay Pride Parade took place on May 10, 1997, and was sponsored by the Las Vegas Bugle. The route was pretty significant. It started at Flex nightclub and ended at Sunset Park, about a 12 to 13 mile long parade. I included a screenshot of the route on Google Maps to show how long this trek actually was. It essentially took place along the entire strip, plus some more. Many organizations exist today, some from when the LGBT community in Las Vegas first found its voice, some are relatively new. The main goal for all the organizations and events we have in the present encourages equality for the LGBT community. For example, AFAN, Aid for AIDS of Nevada, supports and provides advocacy for all those who are dealing with AIDS. Golden Rainbow provides housing, education, and direct financial assistance to men, women, and children living with HIV/AIDS in Southern Nevada. The Center is one of the largest gay and lesbian organizations in Clark County, Nevada. PFLAG Nevada is a nonprofit organization that supports and advocates for LGBT, their families, parents, and allies. With the amount of people that support and encourage equality for LGBT, the Las Vegas community has the opportunity to make great progress in the future. The Las Vegas community does not disappoint when it needs to come together to fight for a cause, and there is no doubt that with enough determination and persistence, LGBT equality is a viable goal that Las Vegas can achieve. Thank you.